Welcome to Inside the Mind, a podcast hosted by myself, Jennifer Forster, and my beautiful co-host, Allie May. We're excited to be here, diving into edgy, raw, and relatable conversations, woven together with mind-blowing questions that will shake up your model of the world, expand your thinking, unravel your beliefs, tease apart your patterns, and walk you to the very edges of everything you've ever believed about yourself.
As NLP trainers, coaches, entrepreneurs, we'll be traversing the topics of business, relationships, money, family, spirituality, leadership, and personal growth, all through the discerning lens of NLP, ancient teachings, and a healthy sprinkling of womanly wisdom. One thing we believe to be true is that if we want a different outcome, we must be willing to ask a different question. And the answers to those questions are always inside the mind.
Hello, Allie May.
Jen, 5-star.
5-star. I love that. I am 5 stars. Absolutely. Welcome back, beautiful humans, to another episode of Inside the Mind. We are so excited to be bringing this conversation with you. If you've already tuned in to our very first episode, you will have an exceptional understanding of what it means to be in cause or be in effect. You either now know whether you have results or you have reasons why you don't have those results. And I'm sure that that's going really, really well for you. So today we want to dive into what really is the second piece in living an empowered life and living fully free as a human, freeing your mind, taking charge of your mind. So today, what we want to really dive into kind of anchors to the context of communication.
100%. We're going to go into, it's called Perception is Projection, and we're going to dive into what's known as the communication model in NLP.
So going forward, as we've been sharing with you, going forward in these episodes, you are going to hear us talk continually and constantly around cause and effect. Today's episode, Perception is Projection, and next week's episode, which is all about whose responsibility is it.
And even behavioral flexibility after that. We have so many topics that we are going to deep dive into. And I just want to circle back for a moment, Jen, because it's still sitting there for me with what you said around people being free. And we touched on this in the first episode as well. I just want to take this a little deeper. I used to be so stuck in my mind, and the way that I see it, as human beings, we are caged inside our minds.
Yeah.
And when we realize that we are not our thoughts, when we realize that we are so much more than that, and we know how to work with our thoughts, and we know how to work with our unconscious mind and our conscious mind, which we will deep dive into more of as well as we move along. When we learn that, then we realize that all of possibility is available to us.
Yeah.
And we can truly free ourselves from the stories, from the chatterbox mind, from the continuous, that continuous chatterbox that goes on. One of my favorite books, actually, and I know it's one of yours too, Jen.
It sure is.
Yeah, really dives into this well, is The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. Yeah, highly recommend that. It's in my top 3 favorite books of all time.
Yeah, it was part of my pivotal moment in my life in 2017. I'm sure many stories will come up during the podcast of that time in my life. However, it was one of those really pivotal books that I can remember where I was when I heard a particular thing. I had it on Audible to begin with. I now own a couple of copies of it. I give it away to friends. And I can remember the moment where that bolt of lightning piece of wisdom came down for me. And there were many components to it. However, it's exactly what Allie, you've just shared. Something that Michael Singer says repeatedly is, we are not our thoughts, we are the one who hears them. Now, let that land. And I'm going to say it again because it's a potent thing. We are not our thoughts, we are the one that hears them.
So who are we?
Who are we if we are not our thoughts? Just doing a little mind-blowing thing there. And in NLP, something that our beloved Tad James, who Allie and I both love and adore, who's no longer on this earthly plane, one of the things that he says is, who's driving the bus? Who's driving the bus? Which really marries in with what Michael Singer is saying. We are not our thoughts, we are the one that hears them. So if we can understand that we are the ones driving the bus. Who are we leading? What's going on there? And a big piece of this comes down to it is very beautifully illustrated through the communication model.
And it's something that we really dive deep into. We're going to give you a snippet today of this. It's something that we dive very deep into when we run our NLP trainings. So Jen and I, we spend a lot of time on this, and it's referred back to continuously through the 9 days of practitioner training. It's also referred to in master practitioner training as well.
Page 7 in the prac manual, page 16, I think, in the master prac manual. The page number gets very quickly embedded in your head, because it really is the communication model. If you can really take it on, practice it, live it, it is a curriculum for, as we continue to say, uncaging the mind and living freely within this world.
Yeah. So we're going to get a bit geeky here with you. We're going to get a little bit geeky. We're going to explain a couple of things. So when we take in information, we take information in through our 5 senses. We take it in.
Just before you launch into that, I want to just give I've just got this on my phone. So perception is projection. So the definition, the actual, definition of it is that perception is projection presupposes that we can only perceive what is already in our consciousness.
Which means we can only assume.
Yeah. So presupposing is assuming. So we assume that we can only perceive what is already in our consciousness. Now, that there is a huge nugget, and now I would like you to launch in and begin to unpack what that actually means.
Yeah, and the beauty here is, so we talk about perception as projection. It's what we perceive and what we project outwards, and we're going to give an example here as well of how this works. And when we break down perception is projection, the NLP communication model is how we do this.
Everything that you're going to hear Allie and I talking about on these episodes, which we really want to be little mini masterclasses for you. Every episode is not just us waffling on, but we really want to give you some really bite-sized chunks of information to take away and begin to apply to your life. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right. We good?
Let's go.
I'm good? Okay, great. So every single bit of information that we take in comes in first. And this blew my mind a little bit.
My mind.
Comes in first, and it might blow yours too. Comes in first through our 5 senses. So it comes in visually, auditorily through sound, kinesthetic through touch, through our olfactory system, which is our smell, and gustatory, which is our taste. So that is how information comes in first.
It's the only way information can come in to us. Despite what we think we know, the only way we can take information in is through one of our 5 senses, or auditory,
digital. We'll take it in through the 5. Yeah, we could go AD as well.
Yeah.
Which is self-talk. But I think we've got the main way is through the 5 senses.
Through the 5 senses.
Yeah, so we'll keep it simple here with this, for this explanation. So we have an external event that's going on. With that external event, we have the information filter through inside us through those 5 senses. And then what we do is we delete, distort, and generalize that information. Now, the information that comes in, and this is mind-blowing as well, it has been shared that in every single second of information that's available to us, we have 11 million bits of information available to us per second. What?
Exactly.
11 million bits. And here's the clincher on this. We can only take in 134 of those bits. And this is how 2 people can be in the same room and see the same thing, but have a different experience. And we'll come back to that. We'll give a real life example of this in a moment. So we take the information in through these filters. The 134 bits we take in, we delete, distort, and generalize the rest. Now, depending on our beliefs, our values, our memories, language, meta programs, which is in our master prac level. We won't go into that at this point in time, but dependent on time, space, and energy, a whole bunch of things, these things will determine what we actually perceive.
Which of those 134 bits we are going to take and keep as our truth. So that means, if you do the math, I haven't done the math, that's a lot of millions of bits that just kind of go through to the keeper. So where do they go?
Exactly. And I love this. This is like a little side note here. You know, when we go, oh my God, my partner changed all of a sudden. And it's like, no, you changed.
You changed.
You changed. When we change, and this is big in our body of work, when we change, we call it an internal representation. When we delete, distort, and generalize information, we make what's called an internal representation. And that's the meaning that we give something. And so with that internal representation, we see things around us and we see people around us a certain way. When we change the 134 bits that we see, then we're able to see something different in somebody else, or we're able to see something different in an experience. Most people,
or in ourselves.
Or in ourselves. And most people are locked in on their 134 bits and there's no space for change. Oh, I just love this so much.
It's so cool. And this is kind of like just a little side exploration here. So the 134 bits, that's what makes up our internal representation. But there are those other bits. And where do they go?
Well, we can't take them in.
So
the unconscious mind takes them in.
That's right.
I'm like, what do you mean, Jen?
Yeah. So where do those excess bits, the bits that you didn't want to take in for whatever reason through those programs, where do they go? Well, they go into the unconscious mind. So think about that. So we have a particular situation that's occurred in front of us. So
let's give an example. Let's say you're watching a movie.
Yes, this is great.
Yeah. Go. So say we're watching a movie and someone in the movie says, like, there's something going on around, say they're talking about business and they're talking about money. And then a limiting belief, somebody says something along the lines of, well, we're never going to make this work. We can never have this. This is too big of an idea. We're never going to make billions here. Unconsciously, we can take that information in and have that become our belief. But we might not have been conscious of that conversation. We could be watching something else in the show. There could be other things going on that we're choosing to watch, and we could just have slightly heard that. But our unconscious mind can take that information in. Oh my goodness.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So if we think about that from the perspective of we're consciously grabbing these 134 bits, which are making up our internal model of the world or our internal representation, there's all this other information that we not accessing. So if you think about, so Allie's sitting here watching the movie, I'm sitting here watching the movie, Allie's grabbing her 134 bits of the 11 million bits per second. I'm grabbing my 134 bits of those 11 million bits per second. What do you think the odds are? And I'm just going to, be a party pooper here and tell you the odds are, it's not possible. What do you think the odds are that the 134 bits that Allie grabs are the same as the 134 bits I grab? Well, I'm going to tell you, it is statistically impossible that's because it's happening per second. So every second we've got a different 134 bits coming in. Allie's grabbing hers, I'm grabbing mine. So how is it that we can experience the exact same situation and have a different perception of what occurred? That's how.
This is exactly how.
Yeah.
So we deep dive into this in a really big way. We're just, like I said, just giving you a snippet of this, but we really deep dive into this in our trainings. So once we have our internal representation, then our state is created. And then we also have a behavior that is created from that as well. So we'll leave those two for now and just go into, we'll give a real life example. So
let's do, because this will really help, especially if you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
This is going to land for some of you.
Oh, this is a good one. So when we look at this, so have you ever been in a conversation with a loved one, with a partner? If you've never had a partner, it could be a parent or a friend. For this, we'll go into a relationship example. A significant other. And been having a potentially heated discussion and your partner says something and you go, that's not what I said. That's not it. Can't you hear me? Don't you know what I said? And there's this conflict and your partner goes, yes, you did. You said this, or vice versa. Have you ever had that experience? I've had it so many times.
Multiple times in my life. And especially if, even if you're a parent, you may have had this with your children as well. That's not what I said. Yes, it is what you said. No, it's not.
And this is the reason why we can be in the same room as somebody, we can be having the same discussion as somebody, but we hear something totally different.
Yeah, we feel something else.
Yeah. And I had this a lot. I will share this example here. I had this a lot with my ex-partner, Lucas, where, we have the most beautiful relationship, friendship now, and we were together for 10 years. And that was a challenging, I'm going to say, let's go expansive relationship when it came to understanding each other. And what I learned in that relationship with Lucas was that after I started to study NLP and I started to become more consciously aware of my own behaviors, my own beliefs, my own language, my own communication, I started to see between us that something clicked in me that perhaps we were communicating very different. Now, a real life example of that is one day Lucas came to my house and he said, "Do you want to sit out the front?" And I was like, "No, I'd like to sit out the back." Now, his idea of the front was the opposite end of the house that my idea of the front was. And I knew in the moment that he asked that, something just didn't feel right in the communication. Now, if I had have gone on and not asked him what he meant or not got clarity from him, then we would have had two different experiences going on, and this is where conflict can happen. So that example was not really around conflict. However, we can have examples where conflict can be created between us as human beings because we think someone is saying one thing and they're actually saying another.
So how do we get clear on that? So again, we're going to go, there's a lot of moving parts in NLP and they all interconnect and work together.
You clean your shit up.
First of all, clean your shit up.
With timeline therapy.
But we also get to ask questions and be really empowered in it, rather than being in the assuming, the mind reading, this is what I think happened. The only way for us to really, truly know what is going on for another human being is to ask them. And we get to ask with volition by getting really specific. So there was a miscommunication there, you got something where, happened, something didn't quite land. If not for Lucas, because you don't know, we can't mind read this stuff, you knew there was something not quite there for you. So the next question you asked Lucas was what?
So I just trust my intuition, and I'm so conscious in my conversations now. I never used to be. I used to get stuck in drama. I never used to be able to communicate effectively. I would go round and round in circles. I'd get really hurt. I'd cry a lot, and we'd end up just having like these arguments and all of this miscommunication. And so it took me a long while to be able to get to a point of communication like this in that relationship. So I just want to preface that. And I just have this, I would get this intuitive hit whenever something was off between us in our communication. So my question, if I just think back on that, the question that I potentially would have asked him is, can I just get some clarity on that? Did you mean this? And then it's like, yeah, that's what I meant. It's like, right, okay, we're on two different wavelengths there. I could say something was up and he would say it was down. Like that was a common occurrence between us. I'm not sure how we saw things so differently in life, and that was such a common occurrence. Same with my son. And I'm the common denominator here, so perhaps I see things a little different in the world.
So to bring it back to perception is projection and the communication model. How is it that two people can see things so differently? Well, we know the answer to that because it all comes down to which of the senses is the dominant sense that we take information in. We will cover this in future episodes. Which of those 11 million bits, which 134 bits did we take in? Okay, statistically impossible that we took in the same ones. So let me just back this up for you and really help you get this really clearly. So these are the things that have to happen in order for us to receive information and make meaning out of it. So first of all, it has to come in through one of the senses. Now, if Allie is kinesthetic, which is feeling.
So dominant kinesthetic. We never really lock into just one,
No.
just for everybody.
Yeah.
For if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
We have dominant representational systems, and my dominant representational system is touch. It's kinesthetic.
Yeah.
So for me, feeling.
You're gonna
feel
feel information.
Yeah.
For me, I'm sometimes kinesthetic, sometimes visual. So depending on the circumstance, I might have taken something in visually. So there's the first thing. So we've seen the same thing and taken in the information through two different senses. Then Allie grabs her 134 bits, I grab my 134 bits. And again, what are the odds that, we've got very different looking bits of information now. This is per second, going to keep reiterating per second.
Because of our beliefs, our values, time, space, matter, a whole bunch of things.
How Allie grew up, how I grew up, what did what beliefs and values did your parents teach you? What beliefs and values were I taught? Did you grow up in a wealthy home? Did you grow up, did I grow up in a wealthy home? Did we grow up in, where there wasn't a lot of excess around? Whatever, did we go to a big school, a small school, a public school? Like there is so many factors that predetermine which of those 134 bits that we even grab. So when we circle this back around to the communication with Lucas, of course, my two favorite words, of course, it's impossible that Allie and Lucas are going to have seen in that moment the same thing at the same time. So we can be right that our model of the world is the right model of the world, or we can have a relationship, but it's not likely that you're going to have both. So what do? We get specific. We ask specific questions. Lucas, what specifically did you mean by out the front? Can you point to where you mean by out the front, right? Especially if you've got kids and teenagers. This is very, very relevant. The way my children view the world versus the way I view the world, poles apart. So I'm very specific with my children when I send them text messages. I don't assume they know what I mean. And I think that's a really, key piece in any communication. And it's what the NLP communication really speaks to. Knowing what we know, the science behind the communication model, knowing that what we know, it's why would we assume that we would see the world in the same way with someone else? So specificity, get really specific in what you're saying, what you're asking, and if you're not sure, never assume.
Yeah, never assume. What is it? Assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. Yeah. Great line. Was it Pulp Fiction? Pretty sure it was Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, mine is when you assume, you make an ass, A-S-S, which is the first three letters in assume, out of you, next letter, and me.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I just want to, before we close out on this, I just want to share, if we are living a life where we are in effect, where we blame other people for our experiences in life, where we're not self-responsible, where we think everyone's out to get us, then our perception, what we believe on the inside, everything that's going on the inside, what we project out is usually a life of hardship. It's usually a life of, I can never have what I want, nothing ever goes my way, people are out to get me, I'm always going to be broke, letting your unconscious minds know right now, these are just examples. And that's what we will project out into the world. Which Jen and I, we are dedicated to being squeaky clean within ourselves. In my trainings, I call it clear, clean, and congruent. So that, so we live that way, and we're very good at identifying our own shit and also pulling each other up on that as well in our conversations for this purpose, so that we're not making meaning of things and then projecting shit outwards, because we can go, oh, that person doesn't like me, or we can mind read a lot and we can make up stories. And when we're clean, clear, and congruent on the inside, when we like who we are, when we value who we are, when we have a bit of sunshine, a lot of sunshine within, then what we project out is very, very different. And it's a much more beautiful way to live.
When we own who we are, what we want, and how we want it, that's what you're going to see more of in the world. I mean, it also comes back to that old, that beautiful phrase, what you focus on grows. And if we are focused on how shitty our life is, if that's our perception, then that's exactly what we're going to see out. That's exactly what's going to be shown to us. If we focus on, I'm an empowered human being that makes choices and creates what I want, when I want, how I want, that's what we're going to see. Yes. And it all starts inside the mind.
Cheers to that. Cheers. We'll catch you next time.
See you soon.